Hi.
Hello.
I just wanted to first thank the Atlantic for putting on this this day. It's really an important conversation.
Clap for
that. And we're very glad to be a part of it. So I thought for our conversation, maybe I'll just put it a little bit in context for some of the work that Wanji and I have had the opportunity to do at PayPal. So we came to PayPal as part of a new leadership team after PayPal separated from eBay and became a new independent company. And we had this remarkable opportunity to think about, here we have this new public company, well-known public company, and what are we going to stand for, and how are we going to walk in the world, and how are we going to walk internally? And we spent a bunch of time defining a mission for PayPal that was a very inclusive mission, and it was a mission to democratize financial services and to focus on what we can do to serve those who are underserved by the financial system. And at the heart of the mission is really a notion that we're going to try to serve everybody, and it's a completely inclusive mission. We understood that we needed to support that with values that would be mutually reinforcing, and thus the funny title of our session about the outside in and the inside in. And so one of our core values has been inclusion, and we spent a lot of time and energy trying to think about how we're going to live that value. So maybe I'll just ask a question to get us started. So you became the general counsel this year and have had an opportunity as one of the senior leaders in our company to really think about how you're going to take this on in the leadership you're providing.
Yep.
And I wonder if you could share some thoughts about that and what you've been up to.
Sure. So just by way of background, a little bit about myself. So I've been practicing law, I'll just say, for over 20 years. We'll leave it at that. And I started my practice as a tech transactional lawyer. And what that means is, going back 20 years ago plus, I was negotiating technology agreements. And so I was working with a lot of tech types, didn't see a lot of people who looked like me from a race perspective, even from a gender perspective, to be honest with you. Add sort of the overlay of that I was working early in my career at a big law firm, where I also didn't see a lot of people who looked like me. Add to that, about 15 years ago, I transitioned from working at a big law firm to moving into financial services, where, guess what? I didn't see a lot of people in senior roles who looked like me. So that being said, I would say, throughout my career, and certainly as I began to take on additional leadership roles, one of the things I realized is that as an in-house lawyer, I had a certain amount of power to kind of not only drive a conversation, but to drive action. And what I mean around that is, specifically as I think about the legal industry and the fact that as in-house lawyers, I rely heavily on a lot of external counsel, specifically when you're in a big company. Even if you're in a small company, at some point you're going to need external advisors. And what I began to realize is that as an in-house lawyer, I am really empowered to help move the needle, just in terms of the law firms that I will work with, whether they are majority law firms that, again, struggle with not just building a pipeline, but ensuring that there's diversity and inclusion at the senior levels of law firms. But also, as you move up the ranks, I realized that I also had, sort of power to sort of impact my own team and the workforce within. So that became a key focus area for me. And sort of fast forward now to being at PayPal, which, as Franz outlined so well in his introduction, our mission is to democratize financial services, right? We want to make moving money easy for everyone. It's not just for the affluent, not just for a specific segment of the population, but for everyone around the globe. And we're a global company. Half of our business is outside of the US, which roughly means that half of my legal team, which is now at about 170 some odd people, are outside of the United States. And we need to be able to speak to the customer segments we're going after and really kind of resonate in terms of our messaging with said segments. And so I'm going to need a lot of support to do that, right? I'm going to need the right employee population to do that, and I'm going to need the right external advisors to do that. So again, one of our values is around inclusion, and so for me, it was very logical to join a company that had values kind of similar to mine, and really allowed me to have a platform to kind of further advance the efforts that we're doing. And just to kind of drill down a little bit on what we're doing with respect to outside counsel. So the good news is that now everyone on my team is sort of kind of conditioned to view the selection of outside counsel the way that I do, which is great. I think for some it was sort of like, ooh, can we ask that question? It's going to make people uncomfortable. They're a big firm. Why should they care? Well, the reason why they should care is because I have a sizable book of business that I can give out to law firms that share my values. And I also have that same sizable book of business that I can withhold if people are not kind of interested in my values and do not have shared values. And what I mean by that is every time we are looking to hire external counsel to support a matter, one of the key questions we ask them is, are you aware of our values? Okay, good. If you're not, let us reiterate those. Diversity and inclusion is very important to us here, and we want to see a diverse team reflected in the teams that are supporting us, not just the pitch team. So I've had this experience before where people are like, this is the pitch team, and then it's a shell game. This is the team that's working on it. I don't want that. I want the diverse pitch team to be the diverse team that works on it. Then, yeah, you can clap for that. And then we take the added step in that when diverse teams come and work on our matters, we will provide feedback. In my experience, I've seen the power of said feedback. If I can send a note to a managing partner to say, this person made an impact. And it doesn't have to be the most senior person. It can be this person made an impact. That will help that person's career. And again, as someone who's worked in a large law firm where you do not see a tremendous amount of diversity, even in 2017, there are major law firms that have one black partner in 2017. It's shocking. I don't work with said firms. There's a lot we can do as in-house counsel, and I think you don't have to be a general counsel to do this. I mean, the second you have the ability to have responsibility for hiring external counsel, you can begin to have those conversations. And the good news is we are conditioned at PayPal and our legal department to do that. And I'm very proud of that.
Let me, another way that we've been looking at how we can take this internal value of inclusion and think about how we can have an impact externally has been in the way we've been thinking about amicus briefs and about how we get involved in some of the issues of our time. And where we can have impact. And you and I have partnered a lot on that, but maybe you can
Absolutely.
say something a little bit about our amicus brief program.
Sure. So it's interesting. So I only became a general counsel at PayPal in February. In terms of sliding into that, so remember, the election was November prior.
November, yeah.
So in assuming my new responsibilities in February, I was told, oh, we have this amicus brief program, but there's not a lot of activity there. You'll get maybe 1 or 2 amicus briefs coming across your desk in a year. It's not a big deal. Okay, that was false. So what I've seen is we get a number of amicus briefs that sort of float across my desk in the areas of whether it started with the travel ban, that was back in February. We've submitted a couple briefs in support of maintaining the DACA program, which ties to our pro bono. Yeah, we can clap for that. Yeah. Which ties to our pro bono program at PayPal that I actually started, under the direction of our chief legal officer when I got to the company. And the reason I did that is because I previously started a pro bono program before. Just for those who might not know what that is, it's basically a program where your internal lawyers within the legal department can provide quality legal services to people who might not otherwise have an opportunity to retain qualified lawyers at no cost to them to provide legal support. So we internally, and I personally, have filled out DACA applications, so that was very important to me personally. So we've submitted a couple briefs on that. We've also submitted a number of LGBTQ issue-related briefs, and I think as a company we have a history of being very supportive in that realm as well. So, I mean, honestly, all the briefs that we've signed in these myriad of different areas are very much tied to public stances we've taken on said issues previously. They're very much tied to our values and our mission. So it's very easy to sign these. And it's interesting because I was told that this isn't going to be a big deal. We're not going to, I feel like it's I don't know, I feel like I've been duped. We're really taking a stand in a lot of these, and it's great that we have a very supportive executive team, and that we also have a really supportive CEO who, when I bring these to him, there is never, it's not like I've got to make an argument. There's never any hesitation. And so, again, that's a good feeling as well.
Well, I think it's also a powerful program because it aligns our values and our business interests, because the underlying, as you get into the issue, the argument we're able to make is diversity and inclusion are good for the business. It's not just a political statement, it's also a business statement, and that ends up, I think, being a really powerful part. And it also, we get a lot of questions at PayPal, and I'm sure at all of the companies who will be coming forward on this stage. Aren't you getting too involved in politics such that you're going to get pushback from your customers or your shareholders?
Well,
but,
if I can interject,
please.
It's interesting because as I think about, sort of our journey at PayPal and having been spun off to shareholders in 2015, we've got 5 employee networks, which is great. It's a small number, right. But it's great at this stage in our journey. And as I think about when I see these amicus briefs kind of pass across my desk, and I think about the diverse populations that we have within the company, and then you start reading some of these briefs, because you may think initially, well, I don't know if I agree with that, and I don't know. As you start reading some of these briefs and some of the arguments in them, I think for me on some of the LGBTQ briefs, there were very compelling arguments that just harkened back to not even 50 years ago when Black people weren't allowed to swim in certain public swimming pools, and people thought that, oh my gosh, they carried disease, this is bad. And you read this and you're like, oh my gosh, how can, who's thinking like this in 2017? Well, I know they're out there, but, and it just makes you feel like, how can you not get involved and represent, interests aligned with the company values as well as with our employee population? Can I ask you a question now, Franz?
Please.
Now that we're chatting. So,
of course.
Can you, sort of just based on your experience, can you share some strategies for how companies can further advance the dialogue, to sort of gain traction? I'm not even going to say continue to gain traction, just to gain traction on issues around diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, no, it's been an interesting dialogue externally, and we, right within our first few months after having put our values up on the wall, we were faced with this situation in North Carolina where we really had to make a decision fast about what we were going to stand for, and that was, I think, a pivotal moment for us. Because once you've stepped up, then you're in a position to really have a different kind of conversation. And we had a different dialogue with other companies. We were able to build coalitions with other companies, starting on the sort of, the front edge of what was looking to be a rollback of rights and protections against discrimination. So I think part of it is being willing to, as a leading company, to be actually heard from in a way that shows you're willing to take some risk. So I think that's part of the process, and part of it is also creating opportunities for dialogue. So one of the reasons we were a founding sponsor of this event last year, and it's really great to see how this is evolving year over year, was, we don't have all the answers, but we need to learn. And companies like ours are on a learning path, and we've got to do better and more every year. And we're going to learn from others and learn from the dialogue in the room and the workshops. So I think that's also part of it. And then I think it's also not letting opportunities go by to stand up for your values. And that's why the amicus brief program is so important, why what we do internally matters to us, because our employees are paying a lot of attention to whether what we put up on the wall is actually for real. And there's some right here in the front row who are looking at me like, yeah, make sure you point that out. But so I think that's part of it also, is understanding and being self-conscious about each small thing that you do minute to minute and hour to hour, because it adds up and it makes a difference. So I think we have those 3 zeros down there. So I'm going to give you a final reflection before we are pulled off the stage.
Yeah,
that
because I
gentleman
think
over
that's
there.
happening very
It's
soon.
happening. It's
All I
happening
want to
to us.
say is focus. Focus is key. If you want to lose 5 pounds, you need to focus on it. It won't happen automatically. I've tried. It doesn't work. So just to really punctuate Franz's point, if there's no focus, there's no action. So I would encourage everyone to stay focused, to continue the dialogue, and I think we're out of time.
Let's go.
So, all right.